Welcome to Goodwill Dumping. This is one man's track segment where me, Will, goes over some albums that are just kind of taking up space in my collection. This week we're going over a couple of Canadian rockers from the late 80s and mid 90s. We got Kim Mitchell and we got the Watchmen to go through. And they're not exactly albums that are for me. They were quite popular, and so I don't want to hold them back from somebody who would actually enjoy having these in their collection. So back to the thrift shop they go once I tell you what I do enjoy about them and why I'm throwing them back. Getting started here with Kim Mitchell's 1986 sophomore release, Shaken Like a Human Being. I think Kim Mitchell's voice is an excellent rock voice. He has solid range, and I don't hear him miss a note. But I haven't been to his concerts, but I do have a live album of his, and he stays pretty steady on through that too. His writing, well, it isn't even all his writing, but the lyrics and the structure of his songs aren't super original, and they kind of wear me out. They're pretty repetitive, and they go on a little bit too long, but that was the case back in the late 80s anyways. Songs were a bit longer. I won't hold it too much against him, but I'm not gonna hold on to his album just for the sake of him being a classic Canadian artist, and maybe the top 40 hit Patio Lanterns might convince somebody else to buy this, but it's not so much for me. It's this sort of sappy teenage rock song, more pop than rock. What he really does well is those stadium anthems, like the opener Get Lucky and the That's the Hold. Just kind of get you going, stomping, clapping your hands, and singing along with his repetitive choruses. You've got the crappy pop rockers like City Girl and Easy to Tame that are total filler on here. You hit the ground at the end with a pretty solid groove, one of my favorite tracks here, but it's just not really my cup of tea. The keyboard lines are super dated, and that's really my biggest complaint off of the opening title track off of his first and only live album from 1990, I Am a Wild Party. This is one of the best selling live albums in Canada, especially at the time, and it's definitely better than his studio album in my opinion. It gets you up, it rocks along. It would have been really fun to be at the show, obviously, but a lot of these really drag on and on and on. By the time you get through, like, That's the Hold comes up again, solid track. The bar rock track, Lager and Ale. I'm getting pretty tired, and I've kind of worn out my welcome of this, but I think Deep Dive is probably some of the best lyricism and just one of the more interesting songs I've come across in his discography, and so that one I'm certainly going to highlight. All We Are, he does a great job doing this rock ballady performance. He nails it, but it's just not really for me. It's not what I want. Gotta mention his biggest hit, Go for Soda. It is classic. It's a Canadian classic track, and it might be the reason he got inducted into the Rock and Roll Songwriter Hall of Fame for Canada. I forgot to mention this album actually got him a Juno for Best Album in 1987, so I guess that's where the Canadian standard was, and I think that's a pretty low bar to overcome at this point in time, but sure, I guess Kim Mitchell can deserve himself a Best Album award and get the props he deserves for putting in the work. I appreciate him, but I'm going to send him back to the thrift shop because I'm not going to be playing him anytime soon. If you're interested in either those two albums or just the songs I highlighted, they're always linked down in the description, but we're going to move on to the second and the final band I'll be talking about today, and the first album I found of theirs, their third album from 1996. This is the Watchmen's Brand New Day. It's a group that has a pleasant blend of alt rock. It's Canadian, of course, and you understand pretty right away what I mean by that when you listen to them. It's generic to the point where I feel like it's kind of smoothed out, bumps along unobtrusively, and feels sort of uninteresting both lyrically and instrumentally. They're lacking this dynamic need that I have to get a band to grab my attention. Maybe it's the production smoothing it all out, but there's just not enough things to grab on here for me. So a couple of songs that do have some highlights, some things that pop out at me are Shut Up. It's their second track on the album. It's more dynamic and more energetic than most of the other songs. Probably my favorite on the album. Incarnate follows it up with a lighter, almost bordering on a Christian rock sound, and some really pleasant, floaty oohs in the background of that one. Kill the Day's got a memorable chorus, but otherwise it's pretty unremarkable. And then Tumbleweed is a solid one that bumps along really well. They are shorter songs than that Kim Mitchell stuff, but still they feel a little bit too drawn out in a lot of cases, and especially on their follow-up album that I'll be talking about in a bit. They have a nice change of pace when they hit beach music. It's a alt-rock ballad that's softer, and normally I'm really not that big of a fan, but they do a good job, so check that one out too, and check out the album down below. I'm going to talk about some more interesting aspects of this album than really just the music. It comes with some cool features, like this thing here. If I put in my address and sent it to them back in 1998, they would have sent me a free live copy of this album, which is pretty neat, I think. Also, this is one of the very first albums that ever had a live internet release, so 1998 internet content is pretty cool. The CD itself has some exclusive stuff you unlock going through their website. Very neat multimedia production here, so I love the effort here, and I love, like, just, yeah, it looks cool, it's fun, but when it comes to the music, beyond the opening track, Stereo, which is a notable improvement and my favorite vocal performance of any Watchmen song I've come across, it starts to drift into that drawn out, a little more mopey feel, and still lacks that that kick beyond maybe a couple more tracks. I'm waiting. It's alright. It's got some energy. It's got some more dynamicism, but you're slowly losing me. Do It's alright. Say Something is a highlight, but it comes far too late down the list for me to get up and really get going anymore. The back end is solidly written. Like, On My Way is a nice sentimental guitar wah-wah session, but it just fades off unobtrusively, like I said. So background alt-rock, sure, if you need it, but I'm not the guy who needs it. They're a cool band. They put in some effort. I thought they were worth chatting about, but I think somebody else will have more fun having them than I will. If you're interested in either of those albums, they're obviously linked down below with all those tracks I talked about. Some more Goodwill dumping over here, or maybe over here, and some more whatever thrift shop reviews for you. Got some more CDs coming, of course. This big stack I recently acquired. Oh, I'm excited. Take good care, everybody. Like the video, subscribe if you can do that. I appreciate it a lot. Have a great day.